Friends, Seinfeld, Frasier, and ER. These are shows that have lived forever. But there were other 90s shows that were pulling in huge audiences and winning major awards that were basically forgotten the moment they went off the air. Today we're resurrecting 10 of your favorite forgotten shows from the dead and figuring out what the heck happened to them. Tell me in the comments how many of these you watched and let me know if there are any I missed. Let's start with Wings. The show about two brothers running a tiny airline on Nantucket Island doesn't get enough credit for how successful it was. It aired on NBC in the heart of the network's comedy lineup, including a stretch where it often followed Cheers during its early run, and for years it pulled in millions of viewers every week. At its peak, it spent multiple seasons ranked among the more watched shows on television. Week after week, Wings drew audiences that most hit shows today would kill for, and it was the perfect show for NBC because it was absurdly cheap to produce. It had one primary set, the airport terminal, a small core cast, and no special effects, just solid writing and great ensemble chemistry. NBC kept it on the air for 8 seasons and 172 episodes from 1990 to 1997. It never won a Primetime Emmy, but it didn't need trophies to justify its existence. So why is Wings forgotten? Well, it's a combination of things. It didn't deliver the kind of instantly quotable lines that Seinfeld or Friends became famous for. It lived in the shadow of bigger shows from the same creative DNA like Cheers and Frasier. It was solid, enjoyable, and reliable, but rarely described as great. But here's the legacy nobody talks about. Wings helped launch Tony Shalhoub towards stardom and gave Thomas Hayden Church a long runway before his Oscar-nominated turn in Sideways. Those two careers exist in part because Wings gave them a platform for years. Not bad for a forgotten show. Next up we have Coach, a grumpy college football coach in Minnesota dealing with his team, his family, and his love life. That was Coach, and it quietly dominated ABC for nearly a decade. Craig T. Nelson starred as Hayden Fox, and during its prime years, the show regularly ranked among the most watched series on television, even breaking into the top 10. It was going head-to-head with heavyweights like Seinfeld and Home Improvement and still holding its own. Craig T. Nelson won an Emmy in 1992 for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series. Jerry Van Dyke, who played assistant coach Luther, also received multiple Emmy nominations. After 7 seasons at Minnesota State, the show made a risky move. Hayden became the coach of the Orlando Breakers, a fictional NFL expansion team. The problem? That fundamentally changed what the show was about. Ratings started to soften, and ABC ended it in 1997 after 9 seasons and around 200 episodes. So why did Coach vanish? Because it was a dad show before that was even a category. It appealed to middle America, non-coastal audiences who loved football and family-friendly humor. When that demographic aged out and streaming-era nostalgia started favoring edgier or more prestige shows, Coach had nothing obvious to offer younger viewers. But here's what Coach proved. You could build a massive hit around non-coastal archetypes. It paved the way for shows like Last Man Standing and demonstrated that middle America TV could dominate ratings even without critical worship or coastal appeal. Next we have Just Shoot Me, a workplace sitcom set at a New York fashion magazine. Laura San Giacomo as the serious journalist working for her dad's magazine. George Siegel as the publisher, David Spade as the sarcastic assistant bringing his SNL energy. For a stretch, this was part of NBC's legendary Thursday night must-see TV lineup, airing in that priceless block near Friends and ER. The show posted strong ratings in key demographics and ended up with 6 Emmy nominations and 7 Golden Globe nominations, including nods for Best Comedy. Stephen Levitan created the show, the same guy who later co-created Modern Family. The cast had genuine chemistry and the writing was sharper than people remember. Then NBC made a fatal move. They shifted the show out of its Thursday night comfort zone for its final season. Without the halo effect from must-see TV, Just Shoot Me struggled to hold on to the same audience. NBC canceled it in 2003 after 7 seasons and more than 140 episodes. Here's the brutal truth about why it's forgotten. It was the ultimate coattail rider. It flourished because of its time slot, not because it had a singular hook audiences couldn't live without. There was no iconic character that transcended the show. It was just a well-executed workplace comedy that happened to air between juggernauts. When NBC's Thursday lineup fractured and the show moved, viewers didn't feel a burning need to follow it, but the show lived on by helping cement the dysfunctional fashion/workplace template you later see refined in things like Ugly Betty and even The Devil Wears Prada. Glossy settings, messy characters, and a mix of comedy and workplace anxiety. Next we have Dharma and Greg. A free-spirited yoga instructor marries a buttoned-up lawyer on their first date. That's the premise of Dharma and Greg, and it was a smash hit for ABC out of the gate. It exploded in its first seasons and became a top 25 fixture early on. It aired Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m., then moved to 8 p.m., where it continued to deliver strong ratings. Jenna Elfman won a Golden Globe in 1999 for Best Actress, and the show earned 8 Golden Globe nominations and 6 Emmy nominations total. The show was created by Chuck Lorre, who later created 2.5 Men and The Big Bang Theory. This was one of his earliest major hits, and it helped prove his formula. Clashing opposites plus broad, accessible comedy equals huge ratings, so what happened to it? For Season 3, ABC moved the show to Tuesdays at 9 p.m. with a lead-in from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was red hot at the time. The ratings lift was massive at first, but when Millionaire cooled off around 2000 to 2001, Dharma and Greg suddenly had less protection. NBC also moved Frasier into the same time slot, creating brutal competition. ABC canceled the show in 2002, and it ended without a carefully planned final episode. But also it just ran out of gas. The entire show relied on the clash between hippie and yuppie, Dharma's free spirit versus Greg's uptight world. After dozens of episodes built around that same tension, the central joke started to feel stretched thin. Here's the legacy. Dharma and Greg is part of the DNA of the Big Bang Theory and the larger Chuck Lorre empire. Lorre took the same basic idea, clashing personalities, culture clash, broad stereotypes colliding, and built an era-defining career out of it. Without Dharma and Greg proving the concept at scale, the modern Chuck Lorre sitcom universe looks very different. Next we have Mad About You, the show featuring Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt as a neurotic couple navigating married life in New York City. And it wasn't just a hit, it was prestigious. Helen Hunt won 4 consecutive Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actress in a comedy series from 1996 to 1999. The show collected around a dozen Primetime Emmys and multiple Golden Globe Awards in its run. At its height, it hovered just outside the very top of the Nielsen charts and was considered one of NBC's flagship adult comedies. And here's the kicker. Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt were widely reported to be earning around $1 million per episode each for the final season, putting them in the same salary conversation as the cast of Friends. Mad About You was the observational comedy of Seinfeld, but with actual emotions. It followed Paul, a documentary filmmaker, and Jamie, a PR specialist, through the minutiae of married life. Deciding who walks the dog, brushing their teeth together, the tiny negotiations of marriage. Eventually, NBC moved the show around to support different nights and lineups, and its ratings started to slide. The original run ended in 1999 after 7 seasons and 164 episodes. It lasted a long time, was showered with awards, and then largely faded from the pop culture conversation. But here's the hidden legacy. Mad About You legitimized the cinema-style sitcom. It experimented with structure and staging, including a famous one-take episode shot to feel like a continuous piece of real time long before that kind of thing was trendy. The show helped prove TV comedy could be subtle, intimate, and stylistically ambitious without giving up laughs. Spin City. It was ABC's smart political workplace comedy of the late 90s. Michael J. Fox played the deputy mayor of New York City, managing a goofy staff and a dim-witted mayor. Audiences and critics loved it. The show was a steady performer for ABC, and Michael J. Fox was its golden ticket. He won multiple Golden Globes for his performance and took home an Emmy as well. The series had a solid critical reputation and reliable ratings. Then, everything changed. In 2000, after 4 seasons, Michael J. Fox announced he was leaving the show due to complications from Parkinson's disease. Charlie Sheen stepped in to replace him for the final 2 seasons. The show survived the transition, but it was never quite the same. ABC ended it in 2002 after 6 seasons total. So why is it forgotten? Some say it's because the show is so deeply rooted in a pre-9/11 New York political world that it feels like a snapshot of a city and era that doesn't exist anymore and therefore doesn't resonate. But also, the workplace sitcom format evolved. Shows like The Office and Parks and Rec redefined what workplace comedies could look and feel like, making Spin City's traditional multi-cam laugh track style seem older than it actually is. But here's the hidden legacy. Spin City was a showrunner factory. It was created by Gary David Goldberg, who had already done Family Ties, and Bill Lawrence, who went on to create Scrubs, Cougar Town, and co-create Ted Lasso. It also gave early visibility to actors like Connie Britton, who would later become a TV icon in Friday Night Lights and Nashville. Next up, we have Becker. Ted Danson played a misanthropic, burned-out doctor running a rundown clinic in the Bronx, and it was a genuine ratings success in the late 90s and early 2000s. Becker spent its early seasons near the top of CBS's comedy lineup and enjoyed strong viewership, especially when it aired as part of the Monday night block alongside Everybody Loves Raymond. It was essentially Ted Danson doing House before House existed, a cynical, brilliant doctor who hates everyone and everything. Audiences loved seeing the former Cheers nice guy play a complete jerk. For years, CBS used Becker in a comfortable slot where viewers would just let the night roll from one sitcom to the next. But when CBS moved Becker to Sundays to anchor a new night, the ratings dropped. The show couldn't survive as easily outside its familiar block. CBS canceled Becker in 2004 after 6 seasons and 129 episodes, and it never got a big, carefully constructed series finale. Why, after 6 seasons, was this show forgotten? Because Becker was a time slot hit more than a fandom obsession. People watched it because it was part of a dependable lineup. They didn't build an identity around it. When CBS moved it, viewers didn't feel compelled to rearrange their lives to find it. The show had no central romance, no iconic catchphrases, no giant cultural hook to keep people talking about it once it disappeared from the schedule. But here's the legacy. Becker proved Ted Danson was bulletproof. Post-Cheers, everyone wondered if he could carry another show. After the short-lived Inc., Becker demonstrated he could anchor a second hit series for 6 years, which helped pave the way for his later reinvention in prestige and high-concept projects like Damages, Bored to Death, and The Good Place. Now, one of my personal favorites from back in the day, The Drew Carey Show. This was a working-class surrealist sitcom about a guy stuck in a dead-end HR job in Cleveland, and it was a legitimate hit. The Drew Carey Show became one of ABC's few consistent comedy bright spots in the late 90s. It was different, gritty but joyful, with insane musical numbers and opening credits that changed regularly. It felt experimental in a way most network sitcoms didn't. ABC ran it for 9 seasons and 233 episodes from 1995 to 2004. That's a massive run for any sitcom. The finale aired in 2004, and on paper, the show looked destined for syndication immortality. But then came the music rights problem. The Drew Carey Show used popular songs for its opening themes: Cleveland Rocks, 5 O'Clock World, Moon Over Parma, and featured elaborate musical numbers built around well-known tracks. Clearing all of that music for streaming and home video was extremely expensive. For years, the show was hard to find in any official form, and that blackout basically erased it from the nostalgia cycle. For a long time, you really couldn't just hop on a major streamer and binge it. New generations never got that easy, just press play discovery moment. Only recently have more episodes started to trickle back onto streaming platforms and digital services, but by then it had missed the first big wave of 90s nostalgia. And that's genuinely tragic because The Drew Carey Show was a pioneer for mixed media in sitcoms. It used musical sequences, fourth wall breaks, live episodes, and weird visual experiments in ways that shows like 30 Rock and Community later got a lot more credit for. It pushed the boundaries of what a network sitcom could be, long before meta-comedy was cool. Okay, now for a show that was much bigger than I even realized, Touched by an Angel. 3 angels travel America helping people at crossroads in their lives. And it was an absolute juggernaut for CBS. At its peak, Touched by an Angel was one of the highest-rated shows on television, regularly drawing audiences in the tens of millions and spending multiple seasons ranked among the top programs in the country. Plenty of critics dismissed it as cheesy, but the audience didn't care what critics thought. Millions of people tuned in every week for hope, inspiration, and stories about ordinary people getting help at their darkest moments. CBS ran it for 9 full seasons and 211 episodes from 1994 to 2003. The show ended with a proper series finale. So why is it largely forgotten? Because inspirational network TV nearly vanished in the 2000s. As television pivoted toward darker, more complex dramas, The Sopranos, The Wire, Lost, Breaking Bad, a show built entirely around overt spiritual messages and earnest hope, started to feel like it belonged to a different era. There's not much room for Touched by an Angel in the prestige TV conversation. It's too sincere, too old-fashioned, too uninterested in anti-heroes and moral ambiguity. But here's the hidden legacy. Touched by an Angel proved there was a massive, loyal audience for spiritual and family-friendly storytelling that coastal media often ignored. It helped pave the way for the success of Hallmark Channel originals, faith-based films, and inspirational cable programming that still quietly pulls in big numbers. While critics and tastemakers largely moved on, that audience ecosystem never really went away. It just migrated elsewhere. The last forgotten show on this list had possibly the biggest impact on television, yet most people don't realize it. JAG was basically Top Gun meets A Few Good Men. Lawyers in the Navy investigating crimes and dealing with military justice, and it became one of the most reliable workhorses on CBS. Here's the wild part. NBC originally aired JAG, then canceled it after 1 season. CBS picked it up, and it went on to run for 9 more seasons. Over time, it settled into a regular spot on CBS's schedule, especially on Fridays, and quietly built a loyal audience. JAG was the definition of middle America TV. Coastal critics largely ignored it. The rest of the country kept watching. It was a procedural about military law, confident, stoic, serious, not flashy, not edgy, just solid television. CBS ran it for 10 seasons total and 227 episodes from 1995 to 2005. The show ended with a proper finale. Why is it forgotten? Because it isn't sexy. It's a military legal procedural that doesn't produce viral clips or easily memeable moments. There are no big catchphrases, no iconic water cooler episodes that pop up on social media. But here's the big legacy. In 2003, JAG aired a 2-part backdoor pilot for a show called NCIS. JAG is the mother of the entire NCIS universe, the most successful drama franchise of the 21st century. NCIS has run for over 20 seasons and spawned multiple spin-offs. The franchise has generated billions in revenue and dominated CBS's lineup for 2 decades. Without JAG, there is no NCIS. Without NCIS, CBS doesn't dominate procedural TV for 20-plus years in quite the same way. JAG is available to stream, but it's often treated as a footnote, a launchpad for something bigger. The show itself pulled steady ratings for a decade, helped define a certain flavor of military drama, and then just slipped out of the conversation. But the ripple effect, undeniable. Did I miss any forgotten shows? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten TV history, subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.